What's up, everybody? This is All Things Beer 510, and today is Martin Luther King Day 2017. We're not going to be doing a review per se. We're going to be talking about black people in craft beer. As you can see, I'm a black person in craft beer. I do beer reviews, go to breweries all over, and it's just something I love to do, something I love to talk about. But at the same time, I am a black man in this country, and black people in craft beer, that's not something you see often, but that's something that I'm trying to put out there, that black people do love craft beer, and at the same time tell my peoples that watch these videos to tell their friends and to tell their friends to go to breweries and go to tap rooms and explore different beers and different tastes, and at the same time for the brewers and for the breweries and the tap rooms to if you're not already, maybe market more to the African American community, market more to certain neighborhoods that maybe you wouldn't traditionally market and put your tap rooms in, because we have a lot of different things in craft beer. We have the quote unquote KKK beer that put off some people. Some people think is great, because of the message behind it. But if you don't know the message behind it and you walk in a store and you just see, a KKK beer that says Yellow Belly, you're not going to understand. The first thing you're going to see is just a beer with a KKK hood. Is that insensitive, or is that just creative, right? And it can be both, but nobody is really talking about it on a bigger spectrum. But it is a controversial beer. It's good, yes, but it's controversial nonetheless. For me, I'm into great beer, and I get why they did that. But at the same time, is it tasteless? I don't think so. But is it insensitive? I think it's a little insensitive when I really think about it. The message is great, but at the same time, you have to be aware that when you put this out there, people don't know the message right away. All they're going to see is just a beer with a hood. And if you're a black person who's not into craft beer and you go into your first craft beer shop for the first time and see this, you're not buying that, and you might be totally put off by craft beer, especially when you find out that that beer it's insensitive, and this video there's no script. It's just me talking to my people out here. There's also in Portland NWIPA, very creative, very creative. I wish I would have thought of it first. At the same time, which I understand it means Northwest IPA, for the consumer, the average consumer, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, they are going to see that and think niggas with attitude. Like, that's the first thing that pops in their mind. That's why it's creative. But is it a little insensitive? It could be. And sometimes people are being insensitive. Maybe they're not doing it intentionally, but at the same time, you have to be aware of what you're putting out there, because when you have a business, it's not just white people that drink it. It's Hispanic people, there's Asian people, there's different people from all cultures drinking this beer. At the same time, NWA is a black rap group, and you're using that spin on niggas with attitude and put NWIPA behind it to attract people, right? It catches your eye. At the same time, some people are not feeling that. There are breweries who use hip hop names, and hip hop has no boundaries, no color or anything. But at the same time, I can tell you that from groups I belong to, that sometimes people feel a certain way about black people who are not drinking craft beer, who maybe not even know about this beer, but all these black, quote unquote, black groups or rap names, they're being marketed. But then there's nobody that's black that works there. There's nobody black that owns anything. There's nobody, nobody's black is drinking the beer. But and I get it, but at the same time, some people who are not in the community of beer do not get it, and it can turn them off. So sometimes we have to be aware of other groups, whether that be the Native Americans, whether that be Hispanics, whether that be white people. We have to be aware of what we say, what we put out there, because it may offend other people. And if you're trying to attract a certain group, then you really have to be aware of what you're putting out there. if you're trying to market a beer that's called Yellow Belly with a KKK hood, and you're trying to market it to black people, or do you really think that a older black person, maybe in their 40s and 50s, who experienced racism, is going to buy that beer, even if it's a great beer, even if it's a great message? Unless somebody's really telling him what it means, he's not going to buy that beer. He's not. And so, you know, it's just a conversation, you know, that I think for my brothers and sisters to try new things with craft beer, because at the same time, like, you know, when I was young, we was drinking Hennessy, we was drinking Remy, we was drinking Crown Royal, you know, Grey Goose, all the spirits. But at the same time, you know, that costs a lot of money too. That gets you messed up. If you're in it to get messed up, then okay. But for me, I drink craft beer because there's the art behind it, because of the passion behind it, because, you know, it tastes good. I've never had Hennessy because it tastes good. I never drink Remy because it tastes good. But for me, for beer, and I think for a lot of people, you know, beer tastes good. And I would tell anybody, not just my brothers and sisters, but to come to a brewery. I'm at a brewery right now, Alameda Island, who on Park Street in Alameda, further down, there's a restaurant called Monkey King, very popular with black people. We line up an hour before. It's a nice place. Well, now Monkey King is next door to Alameda Island as well. They put a second restaurant, and it's doing well. And there's a lot of people who go to this Monkey King who are not into craft beer, and then it's next door, so they come inside, they see the menu, and they try something out for the first time. And I think the Monkey King owner, who I haven't met her, but she's real smart in the fact that, because I've heard that she wants to put different, you know, communities and expose them to craft beer as well. So she put Monkey King, which black people go to, next to a brewery. So now black people are gonna come in and say, oh, what's this next door? This is beer. What kind of beer? You know, and maybe, you know, traditionally, you know, black people, you know, at least my family and my friends, they're not heavy into the IPAs because of the bitterness and everything. But, you know, there's Scotch ales, there's stouts, there's porters, there's everything is not bitter. You know, if somebody likes a Heineken or a Corona, there's Hefeweizens, there's Pilsners. There's different styles for different tastes, especially if you're a novice getting to craft beer. You're not going to want, you know, something that's, you know, 15% beer. You know, that's not something that we, you know, in the craft beer community should be doing to new craft beer drinkers. You know, I think you should ease them in. Me, myself, you know, I hated beer. You know, my aunt worked for Budweiser for 25 years. So when I thought of beer, I thought Bud Light, Budweiser, Heineken. You know, those are the type of beers I thought about. I didn't know about craft beer and craft this and craft that. But, you know, I had a friend, my friend is of Mexican descent, and introduced me to craft beer, and little by little I started, you know, loving what you know now, and so it does take friends of friends of friends to put people on to different things and new things, and I think for why black people are not into craft beer as much, some of it is culturally too. It's just not something that most of us grow up into. It's not something that's introduced to us. You know, if my parents were drinking E&J and gin, there's rap songs called Gin and Juice. There's not songs called Sierra Nevada and Juice, like, right? Like, so it's not something that's culturally introduced to the black community. But at the same time, I do think that breweries should make it a point to market to different communities, not just the black community, but market to different communities as well, because I think it's a great thing if you have all races enjoying this beautiful thing that we all love called craft beer. So I do think some of the breweries, or all breweries, should, if they're not already, making an attempt to be more diverse in their hiring, diverse in the brewers, you know, and hopefully, you know, there's more. I know Brooklyn Brewery, you know, there's the head brewer there is black. Annie Johnson, I think, has won a couple awards in home brewing. And so there are black people in craft beer. I belong to a Facebook group called Brothers of Craft Beer who love craft beer, and it's been a great group for me and to see people who look like me. You know, when I'm in line for buying beer and waiting in line or go to a brewery, there's nobody who looks like me. Not the bartender, not the person that's in the back brewing, nothing. And you know, so maybe sometimes I can turn people off too. And at the same time, I think inclusion is great, and I think the more people you have, the more diverse your business is, the better. You bring different people from all different backgrounds in and accept everybody, and not be so pretentious, you know, because if you are coming from the outside into a brewery, especially for me, if I was not drinking beer and I came into a spot, and I see little wine glasses and I see people sniffing, you know, and I do this, you know, I see people sniffing beer and I see people, you know, treating beer like wine. If I'm from, you know, where I'm from, that's going to turn me off. I'd rather just get me a fifth, a Hennessy, a fifth of Remy, and chill with my boys. I'm not going to go to the brewery and drink and do all those type of things in a scene where I feel kind of uncomfortable. That's why I think inclusion is great, because if I come in and I see a black bartender or you know, a Hispanic bartender or an Asian bartender, I'm gonna know, oh, this place is very diverse. I went to a brewery, I won't say their name, but I went to a brewery this summer. I love their beer. I brought my boy with me from Brooklyn or from Queens, and we went in and he felt uncomfortable because from where he's from, he's only used to being around his certain group of people. But when he went here, it was just all white people like in their 40s and with long beards and mustaches. Me, I don't have a problem with that. You know, I'm used to it. But for somebody who's not used to it, I can see how that turns them off. So I think inclusion is great. Breweries reaching out to certain communities, all different types of communities, so they can attract everybody, not just one group, but everybody. And I'm not saying certain breweries are not doing that, but you know, I think it should be better than what it is. And for anybody who's watching this video, if I'm wrong in anything, just let me know. This is just, you know, me talking. I'm not an expert on anything. It's just black people and craft beer. There are black people in craft beer. We love craft beer, but there are some things, certain breweries that do certain things that I think are insensitive. I think there's certain breweries that do it, and then there's nobody to call them out on it because there's nobody in the community, in craft beer community, to call them out on certain things. But you know, there are certain things that's just that, you know, aren't cool. And you know, if people was doing Native American beers and putting certain names on a beer, people, you know, Native Americans may look at that and be like, I'm not buying that, you know, and there might be a good message behind it, but you know, from the outside, they're not picking that up. And people make beer and distribute beer and put it on the shelf to be bought. So you have, business-wise, you have to realize that some things that you guys may do that, or certain names that you may put out there, you guys got to think about that. And if you're trying to market to an audience, think about, is that insensitive to that audience? If you got anybody who wants to comment, leave a comment, and you know, tell me, you know, how you guys feel about, you know, black people in craft beer, or Hispanics in craft beer, or Asians in craft beer. Because when I go to certain breweries, you know, I do see Asians, not a lot, but I do see them. I do see Hispanics and Latinos in craft beer, not a lot, you know, but I do see them. The head brewer, Monkish, is of Asian descent, but at the same time, you know, craft beer is white, and it's okay. I mean, every group has their own thing. Like all groups have, there's white people stuff, blackish, there's black people stuff, there's Hispanic stuff, there's Latino stuff, there's Asian. Every group has their own thing, but at the same time, we should be still trying to make a conscious effort to include everybody and everything. It's Martin Luther King Day, and he spoke about inclusion and including everybody and making sure everybody's voice is heard, and also not trying to, you know, be insensitive to others. And so for those craft brewers who are, you know, not thinking before they put a certain name on a beer, I think they should start thinking deeply about, you know, how this would affect. Am I going to even market this to this community, or do I just want to put a cool name on it? I think these are things that need to be talked about in our community more. It's okay to talk about race. I know some people don't like talking about it, but it's okay as long as we can have a respectful conversation and agree to disagree on certain things, that's okay. But I think conversations do need to be had about diversity in craft beer. You know, and I don't have the answers, but please, guys, you know, tell me, you know, does craft beer need to be less expensive? Does it need to be less this? Does it need to be less that? Does it need to be, you know, what does it need to be? You know, thank you guys for just, you know, all the people who just love craft beer. It's a great community, and I just hope that everybody of all races, all backgrounds, embrace craft beer, because to me it's fun, it's creative, it's science behind it. Brewers put a lot of hard work and hard time into this craft that we love, and so I respect it. It's something I love. I don't brew, maybe one day, but I do respect it, and it's something I love to do. So at the same time, being from where I'm from, being a black man in this country, I do feel that, you know, if I'm gonna drink craft beer, I'm gonna speak on certain things that, you know, and ask certain questions, and not just be quiet. And so that's why I did this video, you know, because there's not too many black YouTube reviewers. So who's gonna talk about these things on YouTube, right? Like who else is gonna do a editorial piece on Martin Luther King Day? You know, nobody. So at the same time, I feel obligated, you know, in my position, to have a YouTube video. I'm not famous or nothing, but if people watch, people will start having conversations about things that they never had before. So, you know, thank you guys. Keep on watching. Please comment on this subject. And until then, you guys take care. Peace.